Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show. It is me, your favorite 25-year-old financial wizard, here to drop some truth bombs about something that has been keeping me up at night, the housing market. And trust me, I'm not just here to echo the headlines. I'm here to give you the raw, unfiltered, slightly sarcastic, and completely necessary lowdown on what is actually happening, why it feels like we're all getting played, and what you can do about it. Because let's be real, many people ask me about the secret to making big money. I tell them the truth, but nobody ever believes me, and that truth often starts with understanding the game before you even try to play it. You know, this whole thing, it really feels like it started with China, right? Like a butterfly flaps its wings, and suddenly, boom, our housing market is in a whirlwind. I mean, they just built and built and built, like there was no tomorrow, and guess what? Tomorrow came and nobody wanted to buy. All those gains, gone, like a bad investment after a pump and dump scheme. And that, my friends, that brings us right here, to good old America, where 1.1 million homes, that is right, 1.1 million, are now swimming in negative equity, up a whopping 15% in just one single year. Now, I know some of you are probably scratching your heads saying, Graham, what the heck is negative equity? Is that some fancy finance term you rich folks use? And to that, I say, my friend, it is not fancy. It is just painful. It means you owe more on your house than it is actually worth. A concept that was as common as bad dating app profiles back when I first started dabbling in real estate in 2008. It was everywhere, a constant reminder that sometimes what goes up definitely comes down and often takes your down payment with it. And here is the real kicker, the sneaky part nobody talks about. Those folks who bought a few years back, 2020, 23, 24, they locked in those sweet, sweet low interest rates, right? So their monthly payments are, like, chill, totally normal. But then you, the new buyer, walks in looking for your piece of the American dream, and bam, you're hit with a 6.5% interest rate, while a few years ago it was a breezy 3%. So what happens? You look at that house, you look at that payment, and you're like, nah, I can't afford that. Not unless that price drops, like significantly. But here is the other side of the coin, the poor sellers. They're sitting there trying to break even after 6% commissions, closing costs, all that fun stuff, and they're realizing, crap, I can't get what I need. I can barely get what I paid or even less. And poof, their equity gone, like my motivation on a Monday morning. That is why in California we're seeing an average $25,000 of negative equity, Nevada, $16,000, Arizona, $24,000, Texas, $19,000. And then there is Wyoming somehow. They're just crushing it, sitting on $23,000 of equity, like they're just living in their own financial utopia, go figure. So what does all this mean? It means if you're in a tough spot, if you have to sell, if life throws you a curveball and you can't stay put, you're going to take a loss, or you're going to face foreclosure. Now, these numbers aren't massive enough to trigger a full-on walk away from your house mass exodus, but it does mean people are likely going to lose their equity or their down payment, or have to cough up extra cash to bridge the gap. And that, my friends, leads us to the next juicy tidbit. Most Americans, a whopping 67%, now think it is a terrible time to buy a house, while only 29% are feeling optimistic. And guess who is the most pessimistic? Yep, US the young adults, 18 to 34, 70. 7% of us think it is a bad time, compared to 63% of 35 to 54-year-olds, and 64% of the 55-plus crowd. We are literally the most financially cynical generation. And for good reason, I might add. Part of this, too, is running out of buyers. I mean, it is like a party where everyone wants to leave, but nobody wants to arrive. There is 46% more sellers than buyers. The biggest difference since Redfin started tracking this stuff back in 2013. Remember 2022, when there were 36% more buyers than sellers? Yeah, that feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Now it is completely flipped, but here's where it gets weird. Defying all this doom and gloom data, pending home sales actually rose 7.7% year-over-year, hitting their highest level since September of 2022. Now, some of that could be tied to mortgage rates temporarily dipping right before the Middle East situation escalated. Everyone was so hopeful for a rate cut, then boom, rates shot back up. So it could be some pent-up demand. People rushing to buy while rates were low, thinking they were getting a deal. I'm definitely curious to see how this plays out in the next month or so. But then, the median sales price for a new single-family home, it dropped $21,600 month-over-month or 5.3% in March, hitting its lowest level since July of 2021. And if you factor in inflation, the median real home price fell 6.3% month-over-month, the lowest since 2014. So what is going on here? A market that is both crashing and rising at the same time. It is like financial Scharfeitinger's cat, both dead and alive until you open the box. And this next part, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the part that I've been obsessing over, all that other stuff. Just context, to get us here. What I'm finding is that a handful of luxury homes are totally skewing the average price upwards, while most Americans are buying at significantly lower price points. Think about it. The income needed to buy a typical U.S. home has shot up 79% in just the last 6 years. You now need to make $93,000 a year just to finance a typical property in the United States. $93,000, people, that is not chump change. Before we move on, there is one more aspect of the economy that almost never gets discussed, but it affects almost everyone, and that, my friends, is travel. We just saw what happened with Spirit Airlines, and believe it or not, travel is one of the first things people cut back on when money gets tight, and it is also one of the first things they splurge on when they feel confident again. People still want vacations, they want to get out of town, they want to see family, and they still want someone who can help them make the most of it. I've been doing a lot more travel lately, and coordinating trips for a mastermind group of entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, good travel planning is not just booking a hotel. It is knowing where to stay, what is worth it, what is not, what is overpriced, what is a good deal. It is a whole art form, and that of course is where our sponsor Fora comes in. For those of you who aren't in the know, Fora is this super cool, modern travel agency for people who love planning and want to help others travel well. As a Fora advisor, you get access to their all-in-one platform with all the tools, training, booking tech, payment support, and a whole community to turn your passion for travel into a legitimate business. Basically, you earn a commission for every trip you book. So, all that effort you put into planning your friends' and family's trips, you actually get paid for it instead of it just being a labor of love. What I really dig about Fora is that you're not just fumbling around in the dark. Your membership gives you industry training, a global community of travel experts, and access to over 7,000 preferred travel partners, from fancy hotels and cruise lines to those cute little boutique places. This means you can hook your clients up with elevated travel experiences and VIP perks that most people don't even know exist or how to get. So if you're already the go-to person for planning trips for your crew, or you just love researching and crafting the perfect itinerary, Fora gives you the professional tools and support to actually make a living doing it. All you have to do to become a Fora advisor and start raking in those commissions is head over to Fora Travel, Comfeatube, or just click the link in the description below to learn more and get started. Again, that is foratravel.com Comfeatube. Seriously, check them out. I feel bad because my last video with them, well, it bombed, and I genuinely think they're a great resource. Alright, back to the housing market chaos. So, what exactly is going on? I'll tell you, because again, this is what I'm seeing firsthand. I probably spend an hour, maybe 2 hours a day, just researching the housing market. It is like my weird hobby. I have these Zillow alerts set up. I track prices. I basically bet against myself. Will this house sell for this much or this much? And then I see if I'm right. It is oddly entertaining. But here is the real shocker. Baby boomers are absolutely dominating the housing market. They're the largest share of both buyers and sellers, according to the National Association of Realtors. Why, you ask? Well, I have a theory. First-time home buyers, Gen Z, younger millennials. Millennials with no money. I hate to say it, but you are absolutely in the toilet. There is no way around it. Unless you have significant assets invested, you're getting reamed every single day with rising prices, inflation, more national debt. They're printing more money. And they're doing it at the expense of people who don't have extra money and disposable income to invest. It is a brutal reality, but it is the truth. But then, something weird started happening. All of a sudden, in places like Las Vegas, California, there has been an influx of buyers, and I'm sitting here scratching my head. Where are these people coming from? They're just appearing out of the woodwork, you might think. Oh, maybe they're fleeing Washington because of the millionaire's tax. And sure, some are, but not to this degree. They're not just instantly packing up and leaving overnight. People take time to make those moves. What I am finding, though, is that because the stock market has been absolutely on fire, these buyers have this insane confidence. The market is at an all-time high, their portfolios are doing better than ever, and they're saying, you know what, I can just trim some of this off and put it into a house. If interest rates are a little higher, they don't even care, because they've made so much money in the market, and it is no coincidence. Over the last 2 months, I've seen more properties just randomly open up in escrow at prices that I think are, frankly, dumb, like objectively dumb prices. And the only rational explanation I can come up with, anecdotally from what I'm seeing, is that the stock market is doing so well. People are taking some of those gains and dumping them into real estate. We're seeing a very bifurcated market, because the market that is seeing the most traction right now in Las Vegas is $5 million and higher. Keep in mind, most of the market in Las Vegas is probably $850,000 or lower, And that lower end of the market, it is suffering because those buyers are really impacted when mortgage rates tick up even a little. It can mean the difference between qualifying for a house or not, but that $5 million plus segment, even though it is a smaller piece of the pie. A lot of those buyers are heavily invested in the stock market. They're not as price sensitive. They can go and pay these insane prices. And they are bidding up some of these properties to levels that, honestly, I just don't see the value in, unless you're trimming crazy Nvidia gains, or you have private equity flowing out of your ears. It just doesn't make sense. This basically means the average person in the housing market is getting absolutely screwed, while everyone else who is invested in the stock market is able to reap the benefits using their gains as leverage to get great deals on properties, or just buying them outright with cash. The sheer number of cash deals I've seen lately in the $5 million plus market is astounding. And this brings me to another point. The US stock market has almost never been this expensive in 150 years of data. The PE ratio is currently at 38, the second highest reading in history, only surpassed by the dot-com bubble peak of 44.2. Now, I've heard Ben Carlson from the Wealth of Common Sense blog argue that this PE ratio, when you look back to 1880, isn't the best metric, because it includes data from an economy that is no longer relevant. And I get his point. Before computers, companies operated totally differently. Their reach was limited. And you can see, since the year 2000, our PE ratios have skewed higher. So Ben Carlson argues that today's PE ratio is high, but not unusual given the last 30 years of data. If we just look at the right half of the chart, this could just be the new normal. This is how the internet works. This is how companies and businesses and the world are coming together with AI. We have a global marketplace now that never existed 30 plus years ago to this degree. So by that metric, we could very well be in a new normal where some of this older data is just irrelevant. This is also why they say the Buffett indicator might be completely broken. For the longest time, this was the gold standard for measuring how well the stock market is valued relative to its past performance. And for a long time, the Buffett indicator has been screaming overvalued. If you've been looking at that metric, you'd think you shouldn't have invested over the last 15 years, except for during the great financial crisis. But the argument now is that GDP badly undercuts the digital economy because it doesn't fully account for the valuations of YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, Gmail, Google, and now AI models and all these new technologies. It is no surprise that the stock market is expensive. Charles Schwab, bless their hearts, says it is either very expensive or just plain expensive relative to past performance across every single metric they track, which is pretty remarkable. So all of this is to say that right now the housing market is totally dominated by older folks with assets, people making bank in the stock market, taking that money and reinvesting it into housing, or people who have significant amounts of money tied up in AI chip companies. I mean, if you're in that segment of the market, money is just flowing in so easily, faster than it ever has in decades. And for those people, they're absolutely flooding these houses, bidding them up, offering cash deals, and everyone else. Well, we're kind of unfortunately screwed a little bit. For the rest of the market, it seems to be leveling off and cooling off. In terms of affordability, prices are still expensive, but relative to what you're seeing in the luxury market, that is the whole story. I would love to hear your take on all of this. Seriously, drop your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll do my best to read and reply to as many of you as I can. Let me know what is going on in your world, what you're seeing out there. And seriously, don't forget to check out our sponsor, Fora. I felt really bad. I plugged them in a prior video, and for some reason, that video just totally bombed. It seems like people just prefer me to rant to the camera for a bit, which, honestly, I'm totally fine with. I actually prefer this over the reaction videos, unless it is a truly amazing reaction video. I just like chatting with you all, something a lot more low-key, you know? So, please, give Fora some love, because again, I just felt bad for them. And with that said, thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, stay boring, stay patient. Peace.